We're partnering with NoCD to raise awareness about OCD. OCD is more than what you see on TV and in the movies. Imagine having unwanted thoughts about your relationship stuck in your head all day, no matter how hard you try to make them go away. That's relationship OCD. It comes with unrelenting, intrusive images, thoughts, and urges about your partner or loved one. Breaking the OCD cycle takes effective treatment. Go to nocd.com to get evidence-based treatment. Well, for all the therapists and practices out there, I definitely recommend jumping on board with Thrizer because it's so easy to run a payment, not only run the payment, but you guys also do the claim submission. It's like all in one.
Exactly.
One click. Hi, I'm Erin, licensed clinical mental health counselor and OCD specialist. I'm also a wife, mom to 3, and small business owner, helping those who are spiraling from intrusive thoughts to come out of that valley with long-term recovery and self-awareness. Reheat your coffee and pop in your AirPods to learn how to boss up to OCD. Sanjana, thank you so much for being here today. It's going to be so fun kind of getting to talk to you about Thrizer and telling the listeners more about Thrizer. So again, welcome.
Thank you so much, Erin. I really appreciate the opportunity.
Yes. So I am a huge fan of Thrizer. And just for the listeners' awareness, Thrizer, at least, in my experience with it as a therapist, it has been super helpful in doing the out-of-network claim processing and helping my clients get their out-of-network benefits. And I've seen a lot more clients say yes to therapy because they have a clearer picture of their out-of-network benefits. And so I just am so excited to have this conversation today. And Sanjana, can you tell the listeners more about how Thrizer got started?
Yeah, absolutely. So Thrizer really got started because of our own experiences doing the out of network billing side of the house. So me and Ronak were both longtime therapy goers ourselves, and we had been seeing, out of network providers ourselves, and super bills were just a nightmare. Like, we would submit super bills, never hear back. Oftentimes it was just confusing where to even go for resources. I didn't necessarily want to bring it to my therapist because I knew there was a reason why she was out of network, and it was just a lot to kind of handle and manage on by ourselves. So that's where Thrizer was born. It's the fact that we understand that a lot of us want to see out of network therapists, right? Maybe we found our fit with that. But we really do need, if we needed the support to kind of navigate everything, we figured that a lot of other people do. And we also realized this is actually a great tool for therapists to also attract their dream clients, right? If they have a resource to really help you guys, say, hey, I have a partner who can help manage all of this for you. You're not on your own, right? And I think that ended up being kind of a win situation for both, therapists and clients. And we felt like this was really addressing a need that existed at the time.
That's wonderful. Yes. And so can you explain how it works on the client's end and how Thrizer helps a client? Let's say if you are that person who's shopping for a therapist and you find someone who seems like the right fit, but they're out of network, what does the client do?
Yeah. So Thrizer, first of all, helps clients verify whether they have out of network benefits. So that's always step one.
Okay.
So when they, either their therapist, if they're using Thrizer, they can check their benefits on behalf of their clients, or if they want to create their own account and verify their benefits, it's really simple. They just input their insurance information and they get an instant breakdown of, hey, here's my deductible, here's how much is remaining on my deductible, and here's what my estimated reimbursement amount is. Oftentimes, even if you're submitting super bills on your own, the price transparency aspect is really not there, right? It's kind of like you submit your first claim and you get the check that you get. Really, there isn't you don't know what you're going to get back before you start therapy. And so that's the first hurdle that we're trying to, tackle and say, hey, you'll have price transparency before your first session, even with your therapist. And so that's always step number one.
That's awesome. Yes. And it seems to be so beneficial when I'm in that consultation with
Mhm.
potential new clients, and I'll say, hey, I will take your insurance information, hand it over to Thrizer. And Melissa seems to be one of those representatives that I get the most. And you guys are always so good at getting back to me within one business day.
Mhm. Yeah, customer support, we realize, is one of the most important things in this business, right? Because we understand that insurance and healthcare and payments, and they're all just very sensitive, touchy topics, right? And it can be nerve wracking if you don't hear back within 1 to 2 business days, right? And so we make that an absolute priority at Thrizer. We definitely never want to leave you hanging, whether that's you or your clients. And so that's always, a huge priority for us.
Right.
I'm glad you had a good experience.
Yes, and I really appreciate it too because it is so painful calling insurance because
Yeah.
before Thrizer, I mean, I would help my clients as best I could, but it was on me as well as the client to call insurance. And that just created another barrier and
Yeah.
frustration that doesn't need to be there. So, I mean, I
Mhm.
sincerely appreciate you guys because just emailing in or, uploading things to the portal makes it so much more efficient and simple and transparent versus
Mhm.
calling someone, calling the insurance, getting misquoted, and still feeling just uneasy about it.
Yeah, exactly. And it just saves you so much time. I think both for you and the clients, right? You could be put on hold, you don't know who you're going to get. And a lot of times what I found is, the allowed amounts are always a black box, and it's kind of a 50-50 shot that you're going to actually get a rep on the call that you get on insurance with, that they're actually going to tell you what your estimated allowed amount is. And, they might say, "Hey, I don't feel comfortable sharing this," or "I don't have the information," right? And so if you're not going to have that number, you won't know what your actual reimbursement amount is. Even if they tell you what your deductible is, they can tell you what your co-insurance percentage is. But that's where we, in our instant benefits calculator, we give you an estimated allowed amount because we have a wealth of knowledge that we've collected from various insurance plans that we work with, right? And so that can feel so much more comfortable to have a number in front of you saying that, hey, you're going to get back $80 or $90. And even if that's an estimate, we're definitely always within the ballpark, right? And so you have that, again, transparency going into sessions that, you wouldn't otherwise have.
Right. Yes. So, just for the listeners' awareness, like a super bill is basically your receipt or your invoice that you get from your therapist, and then you would send it in normally to insurance. But in this case, they would upload it to their Thrizer client portal.
Yeah, so we actually have two separate products. So one is our bread and butter, that's our payment platform. That's what most of the practices and therapists that we work with use so that they can offer their clients courtesy claim submissions, actually.
Mhm.
So I can talk about that for a bit, but we also, you're right, we do have super bill uploads where, if the practice doesn't want to use Thrizer for their billing, or a client finds us on their own and their therapist hasn't been onboarded onto Thrive, they can absolutely create an account and upload their own super bills. So we have two separate products just depending on how involved the practice and therapist wants to be, and they're kind of pros and cons on both sides.
Right. Well, for all the therapists and practices out there, I definitely recommend jumping on board with Thrizer because it's so easy to run a payment, not only run the payment, but you guys also do the claim submission. It's like all in
Exactly.
one click.
Yeah, exactly. And that's what we wanted. So, to kind of break down the Thrizer payment platform a bit more, it is a payment platform designed specifically for out of network therapy. It'll look and feel similar to billing through Stripe or Square or your EHR. But the benefit of charging your clients after sessions via Thrizer instead is that exactly what you said is every time you charge a client, an out of network claim is automatically submitted to them. So there's no need to request and submit super bills or know where to submit that or email that into insurance. So we handle all of that. We also manage those claims end to end. So if insurance gives us any headaches, it's us on the phone with them and not you or your clients. And we've built these relationships with them. So we understand who to contact and how to get things done very quickly. So, it's less burden on the client or the therapist to get a random person on the phone and answer all those questions for you. The basic kind of first steps that we make sure we hit And the really cool thing about Thrizer, beyond those two things, is that, once a client meets their deductible, we actually say, hey, like you only have to pay your co-insurance for sessions and not even have to wait for reimbursement. We'll wait on your behalf, and we'll also make sure that we cover your therapist fee in full, right? And that's really the game changer. And that's where our unique point is. I know there are other people on the market who are doing claim submissions and claim management, but we realized early on that, and also from our own experiences, right? Because we were going to weekly therapy and it became really expensive to front, $200 every session. And then at the end of the month, right, I'm out $800 and I don't have a reimbursement check yet. And it can feel nerve wracking. It's a little, like, I know the check might be coming, but I've had to have all this cash flow to pay for therapy, right? And so this feature really came out when we saw the need that clients, even if they know they have out of network benefits and they know they're going to get a reimbursement check, they still need to have support paying for sessions at the time of the session, right? And so with Thrizer, similar to in-network copays, we let them just pay a co-insurance. So it's much more manageable for them to pay, $50 instead of $200 at the time of the session.
Right. I love that. And it's a win on both sides. And as a provider, you can go in there and select, and you can see where they are with their deductible, but you can also select that Thrizer pay option. So it's wonderful in that one click of a button, I get my full session fee, and the client only pays the portion that they need to pay. Like, they don't have to pay the full fee as long as they've met their deductible.
Exactly. Exactly. And I think that's what, 90, we also offer clients the option to, if they say, hey, I don't want to do that and I don't want to pay more in fees, because that has a little bit more in fees, they could say, hey, I don't mind like paying my therapist full fee up front and waiting for reimbursement. And so that is also an option. And that's, just a 1% fee versus a 5% fee for the Thrizer pay or co-insurance option. But we find that, I think I'm trying to remember the exact number, but 90% plus clients who work with us end up choosing Thrizer Pay, because it just, it feels better. They don't mind paying 5% to, have us manage the claim and not even have to worry about reimbursement, right? You pay for your session and you're done. You don't have any action items afterwards. You don't have to submit a super bill or wait for reimbursement or wait for that check in the mail. Like, it's just much easier and feels like that in-network experience for them.
Yes. And so, Sanjana, you were speaking to kind of some of those differences between Thrizer and those other billing services out there. So, for example, like I've heard of Reimbursify. What would you say are some key differences between Thrizer and Reimbursify?
Yeah. So the biggest difference, as I mentioned, is the fact that we offer this co-insurance option. So Reimbursify doesn't have that. All they're doing is really submitting the claim on behalf of the client. Either I think the therapist can offer courtesy claim submission similar to us, or I think the client can submit their own super bills, but that's pretty much it. That's really all they do. They actually don't manage claims end to end either. So if anything happens with insurance, they'll kind of tell the client, hey, here's what you need to say when you get on a call with insurance, but it's still on the client to get on the call with their insurance company, which is not what anyone wants to do. So that's the big way we're different. We do the end-to-end claim management and they don't. But really, it's also that Thrizer Pay feature, the fact that we allow clients to just pay a co-insurance. For them, you would still need to wait for reimbursements via check in the mail. And the other way we're different is we're also much more cost effective for both clients and therapists. We offer therapists the benefits calculator for free. I know Reimbursify charges monthly fees of like $60 or $90 or something like that, especially if you are someone who has a smaller caseload, or you have a smaller practice. You don't need to pay monthly fees for that, right?
Right.
You should be able to, if you have a prospect come in month 2 or month 3, like, shouldn't be paying $60 for one prospect call, right? And then you want to check their benefits. So we really believe that we wanted to keep that benefits calculator for free for our therapists, and the client fees are much more manageable too. So a strong belief that we have is that if a client is working towards their deductible and their therapist is offering them claim submission or courtesy claim submissions, they shouldn't pay any fees for that, because they're not getting any reimbursement, right? So we actually don't charge any fees for the clients if they're
Wow.
working towards their deductible. But,
How nice.
Reimbursement still charges the $3 or whatever they charge. So those are kind of the big ways that we're different. So Thrizer Pay, the co-insurance option, cost effectiveness, and end-to-end claim management would be the three ways.
Yes. And the other thing I've noticed in just doing my own research and kind of investigating these different billing services is Thrizer offers a referral bonus, whereas these other platforms do not. And so maybe we can speak to that, together here for a moment. But like, I got a referral link from a colleague on LinkedIn and I got
Mm-hmm.
$2,500 off from my transaction fees. And I can
Mm-hmm.
continue to give that. So if you're listening and
Yeah,
you're a provider, and does it also work for clients too? If a client were to,
it's just on the providers for now.
okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So if you're a provider, you can use my link in the show notes and they can get their first $2,500 off transaction fees.
Yeah, exactly. So that's one of the ways that, we wanted to encourage just free trials, right? Like we understand that a lot of comments that we hear or, feedback is this seems too good to be true. Like what's the catch, right? And we get that a lot. And so this free trial is really an opportunity for you to hop in there and see it for yourself. And like you mentioned, we give the 3% is the credit card charge that we do for therapists and practices. So that's waived for your first 2,500 in payments. And to your point, every time you refer a peer, you get that 2,500 and they get that 2,500 each time. So, you could end up not paying credit card fees for a long time because
Yes.
you're kind of just, spreading the word and all of that.
Yes. And I feel like it is a gold mine. I mean, it has been a long time coming, and I'm so thankful you guys exist. Whenever you first started to think of this business model and this business idea, what were your dreams and your goals and your aspirations for Thrizer?
Yeah, I love this question. I think just ultimately, our motto is to make therapy work for everyone. Of course, we've had, our experiences from a client perspective, navigating the whole super bill and out of network space. But as we started to think about a solution for that, we saw we did a lot of therapist interviews and clinician interviews in general, practice managers, just a lot of people to understand what's missing in the space. And it's easy for therapists to get blamed for the mental health accessibility gap, right? It's a lot of like, oh, it's on you to make mental health more accessible. But then, we started learning more about reimbursement rates that insurance provides and all the paperwork and then all the headache, the insurance paneling and like how that whole process is. And insurance really doesn't incentivize therapists to be in network. Right? It really just doesn't work for a lot of people, right? And so we quickly realized that there's kind of a win that exists for both clients and therapists if we figure out a system that's seamless and streamlined, that being out of network works for clients and it also works for therapists, right? And so that's where we really felt like we need to educate on that. Out of network benefits are fabulous, like they really do bridge the gap. And so, really, our dream was to make sure that people know they have out of network benefits and are able to use them seamlessly. That then benefits both clients and therapists, right? And just to create a frictionless, seamless process to bridge the gap between the two. And that's really been our dream since then.
Yes, and I can attest that that has been my experience so far with Thrizer. And I love how you're phrasing it with like the accessibility of mental health care, because it's not always about the number of therapists in your area or who's in network or out of network and all the things. It's really about finding the right fit. And anyway,
Yeah.
based upon your experience, maybe from a business standpoint or personal standpoint, what are the benefits of using an out of network therapist?
Yeah. So, really using an out of network therapist, like the first thing off the bat is let's say want to start therapy quickly, right? And you're like, hey, I really want to do this right now. And maybe, the first step when I had that realization is when I said, I want a therapist, I went onto Psychology Today and it was intimidating, right? It was like going through that process. A lot of them, a lot of therapist profiles I read didn't accept insurance. And then I was like, oh no, like, do I have to do this? Like, what if they don't accept my insurance? So, off the bat, if you're trying to start therapy and you want to do that quickly, you will find a larger plethora of, I think, out of network providers who are ready to offer care. a lot of them tend to be more specialized as well, right? Like a specific, whether it's anxiety or OCD or whatever it might be, really specialized. And that's maybe exactly what you need as a client, right? And especially if you have those out of network benefits, it's not going to be much of a difference for you from a cost standpoint of an in network copay versus an out of network coinsurance, right? And so if you end up doing the math, then maybe it just is pretty similar from both angles, right? And so if you're able to tap into get care when you want to get care as soon as you want, get a specialized expert to be, your guide through everything, and you have the out of network benefits to be able to support this financially, it really just ends up being the right option for you. And another thing is, my first therapist, I found her through a referral, right? And so it was a peer who had been going to therapy for a while, and she was like, I love my therapist. And I was like, wow, okay, yeah, let me just set up a consult call. And she ended up being a great fit. And she was out of network. And I was like, you know what? It's fine. Like, I'm going to, she seems like someone I want to work with. Right. So it just gives you that opportunity to find someone that you just feel like is supported, supporting your journey, and makes you feel like therapy's worth it. And so I think those would be kind of the main reasons.
Right. Yes, I completely agree, because when you're thinking about some of these conditions, especially with OCD, you feel like the client feels so far gone and like there's no one that can help them, or they have gone to a general therapist and experienced that result of actually not getting better. And they're
Mm-hmm.
still anxious, still experiencing the intrusive thoughts, when what they really need to do is see an OCD specialist. And
Especially,
so,
yeah.
yeah, it's really nice that, as myself, an OCD specialist, and doing the out of network courtesy billing, is that I'm also getting extra support from Thrizer. So
Mm-hmm.
it makes my role as a therapist just a lot more simple. Like, I can show up in session and be fully present, and there's not any wasted time in us talking about, did you send the claim? Where's your or like they're asking me, where's my reimbursement check? How do I get this? How do I navigate that? So we're able to fully focus on their presenting issues and their goals, and it's just been a breath of fresh air.
Yeah, as it should be, right? I think both the therapist and the client, the last thing they want to talk about is finances and reimbursements and insurance and all that. Like it can leave a, oh my God, I have so much to accomplish after, or I have so much to do after I leave session, versus just leaving session with like, wow, that was a great session. I really got so much out of it, and I don't have to worry about anything else, versus leaving the session being like, oh, wow, now I need to request a super bill. I need to submit the super bill. I need to wait for reimbursement. There's just so many action items that can take away from just enjoying the therapy process, which is how it should be for both clients and therapists.
We're partnering with NoCD to raise awareness about OCD. OCD is more than what you see on TV and in the movies. Imagine having unwanted thoughts about your relationship stuck in your head all day, no matter how hard you try to make them go away. That's relationship OCD. It comes with unrelenting, intrusive images, thoughts, and urges about your partner or loved one. If you think you may be struggling with relationship OCD, there's hope. NoCD offers effective, affordable, and convenient OCD therapy. NoCD therapists are trained in exposure response prevention therapy, the gold standard treatment for OCD. With NoCD, you can do virtual, live, face-to-face video sessions with one of their licensed specialty trained therapists. It's affordable, and they accept most major insurance plans. Breaking the relationship OCD cycle takes effective treatment. To get started with NoCD, go to nocd.com/savage. And I feel like Thrizer is becoming that bridge for clients to help access their mental health care in a much easier, simple, transparent way.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So what have been some key moments of growth for Thrizer?
Yeah. So the two big ones that come to mind is when we introduced this Thrizer Pay feature. So initially, when we launched our payment platform, which was our first product, that was still picking up, it was taking off. But when we introduced this, co-insurance, you just have to pay that, and we'll take care of the rest and wait for reimbursement on your behalf, that's when we started really seeing growth, because that was the need that wasn't being addressed in the market, right? And so as soon as we had the Thrizer Pay feature, that's our, like I said, the biggest differentiator from our competitors, right? We do it really well. We have predictable payments every Friday for therapists, right? It's just a very streamlined process that it just kind of started taking off there. So that was really our one, I think that was about a year ago is when we launched that. And that was a huge moment of growth for us. And the second moment of growth was when we launched our Thrizer Superbill uploads. And so that's where we recognized either one, that a therapist may not want to switch over all their billing to Thrizer and they still want to offer their clients a resource to manage their out of network process, right? That was the one need that we found. And the other need was, what if a client finds Thrizer on their own and they just need help with their super bills, right? And so we recognize, even if we have the payment platform, there was still this need. And so that's where we launched the Thrizer Superbill uploads about, I think, like 2 to 3 months ago at this point. And so it's relatively new, but it's really been picking up, right? Because it is just such a valuable resource. All the therapist has to do is provide their client with the superbill. The client verifies their benefits on their account, and then they just upload super bills onto their Thrizer portal every time they see their therapist. And we manage everything. We submit it to insurance, we manage the full claim. We also send reimbursements back directly to their bank account so they don't have to worry about checks in the mail. And we actually recently also launched our instant reimbursements, which is another that was more recent even actually. Yeah. And that's where, even if their therapist isn't using Thrizer Pay with them, they can request an instant reimbursement after they meet their deductible directly to their bank account in 1 to 2 business days, instead of like waiting for reimbursement as soon as they upload their super bill, right? And so that's, again, helping them manage their cash flow much better. And so these are kind of our pivotal, I guess all of them are product updates that we've had, or new features that have come out. And they've all been born out of, hey, there's a solid need for this out there, right? It's not, okay, we're making enough money, like, let's just stop here, right? It's always like, how do we, built into our DNA is, how do we better listen to our users, better listen to the market, and create products that are truly meaningful and really bridge the gap and all the little friction points that exist along the way. We're not okay with good enough, right? We're like, hey, we're going to keep pushing it. We're going to keep trying to find more of those little moments or areas where things are falling apart, because ultimately our goal is to make sure as many people who want therapy get therapy with no strings attached, right? And so those are, I would say, like kind of our key moments of growth.
Wow. I feel like the more you share, the bigger my eyes are getting, because it's just amazing. And I mean, just to clarify for the listeners, like, even if your therapist doesn't take Thrizer, every therapist is going to provide you your super bill. I mean, that's just part of our work and what we do. And a lot of these electronic health record systems automatically do that for you, or you can go in your own client portal and request it. But anyway, the client can be empowered to access their out-of-network benefits with a lot less friction if they use Thrizer.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly.
Awesome. Yeah, and what's also interesting to me, because I know just also in my own personal experience, and then also being a therapist, like, it can take time to get that reimbursement check, or to even get an explanation of benefits back from your insurance saying, oh, we got your claim, So how do you ensure like a smooth, efficient process, like just from the Thrizer end?
Yeah. And I think it's actually crazy, because I remember when I actually came into Thrizer as a client. So I had super bills I'd been submitting and I never heard back. And I basically lost faith in the whole reimbursement. They say I have out of network benefits, but I'm not even, to your point, receiving an acknowledgement email that says, hey, we've received your claims. Like, we're working on it. Like, we'll get back to you within 3 weeks or 4 weeks. Like, no communication whatsoever, right? And so it can just feel like such a black box. And what we found with Thrizer is that somehow when we, obviously we have our expert billing team, right, who knows how to work with insurance. That's they're the people who are really on the front line, making sure that we get in front of the right people, things get submitted to the right place, that nothing gets lost in the cracks. So our billing teams, like, huge shout out to them. They're amazing. They're really like the backbone of our entire
The
company.
gurus, huh?
But besides that, right? Because we're submitting claims in bulk, insurance tends to listen to us, right? And we built that relationship with them. We're submitting thousands of claims. And so, because of that, we've kind of figured out a streamlined process versus a client doing it on an island alone for their one claim. We're like, hey, let's aggregate all of the claims. We submit thousands of claims at a time. We've built the relationships. Really, like, things don't get lost in the cracks. And even if we do, we have our expert billing team to get on the phone with them, really track it down, and make sure that the client receives their reimbursement. So I think that's kind of the way that we've been able to build that out.
Yes. And I've just got a few questions out of curiosity. So, if a claim is denied, how
Mhm.
does Thrizer navigate that?
Yeah, so we have a couple strict policies around that. So, of course, first, if a claim gets denied, we're on the phone with them fighting for the client, right? So that's always our step one. We try to gather as much information as possible on, hey, why did it get denied? A lot of times it ends up being just like a minor thing that we can fix on the claim, and things get resolved pretty quickly. So, we're able to quickly resolve that with our billing team. But for whatever reason, if it continues to get denied, whatever it might be, we have a strict no back charges policy. So, if a client has already paid their co-insurance for a session, we're not going to go back and back charge them for that claim or that session if it was denied, because we understand there's a level of trust they've instilled in us, right? And we don't want to slap them with, hey, now you owe us the $100 that you thought you were going to get from reimbursement, right? So
Wow.
we have that as a strict policy for us. Again, we try to fight it as much as possible. Ultimately, if it continues to get denied, at that point, we do have a conversation with the client and their therapist that, hey, it seems to be, for whatever reason, the insurance plan isn't going through. At that point, the client would be responsible, but they would have had enough lead time, and us being on the phone with insurance, really finding it not slapped with that back charge for any claims they've already paid for. So that's how we'd manage that.
Wow, that's amazing. And also, I mean, this may not be part of your day-to-day operations right now, but do you guys also do out-of-network billing for other medical providers, not just mental health therapy?
Yeah, we're actually getting into that recently. So, other types of therapy, so physical therapy, occupational therapy, dietitians, those have been kind of the places that we're trying to navigate into. Of course, our bread and butter is still mental health therapists and psychiatrists, but we do have, several therapists and practices who are using us for PT, OT, dietitians, stuff like that.
Yes, I'm glad you mentioned psychiatry because a lot of people do need a psychiatrist, and not many psychiatrists are in network with insurance.
Yeah.
Yeah. And, just for the listeners' awareness, like, as a medical provider, whenever you sign up for insurance, the insurance tells you what you're going to get paid. And
Hmm.
it's like, I didn't go to school for you to tell me what I'm going to get paid in my own business.
Yeah, exactly.
That's
Exactly.
just my own soapbox. And so I can especially understand that from a psychiatrist perspective. When you've done medical school and all this extra residency, like, no, thank you. Are you going to take away like potentially $200 to $300 worth per session that I just write off and I don't get?
Exactly. And that's where Thrizer Pay becomes even more helpful, right? Because if you are expected to pay 350 for a session and you may get your reimbursement 6 weeks from now, at least paying maybe 200 for a session instead of 350, right, can be a huge burden off your shoulders, right? Because you can at least afford to see your psychiatrist as frequently as you want. And so, absolutely, psychiatry is our big client base. Like, we absolutely work a lot with psychiatrists and group practices full of psychiatrists. Yeah.
I'm sure that's huge. Yeah, I'm glad you mentioned that because I didn't even know psychiatry was in the wheelhouse right now. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so, I mean, I've had a lot of great customer service. Sounds like you guys really prioritize the customer service experience. Are there any other things that Thrizer does to help like elevate the customer and give them top level white glove support?
Yeah. I really think it is our customer support. I know you mentioned Melissa. She's awesome. We make sure that we get back to you within 1 to 2 business days, whether you're a client or a clinician, right? And we really kind of work with you through whatever it might be. And that's where I think we differentiate ourselves too. We try to make that an absolute priority for us. And we just want to make sure you don't feel like you're on an island. It can be nerve wracking whenever, again, like I said, healthcare and money, you put them together, it can be very sensitive topics to talk about and navigate. So we understand and we approach it with empathy to make sure that, everyone gets what they need.
Mm-hmm. And what has been some of the feedback you guys have gotten either from the providers or individual consumers and clients about their experience with Thrizer?
Yeah, we were very loved. It's great to see that. We recently launched our Thrizer Love page on our website, and that wasn't supposed to exist, by the way. It was supposed to be just, a couple testimonials we put on our website on the therapist page or the client page, like a little carousel. And we just got such an outpour of love that we're like, we're going to dedicate a whole page to this.
Yes.
And yeah, it's everything we talked about. The customer success or support is something they really appreciate. The Thrizer Pay feature is something they really appreciate. The fact that, the courtesy claim submissions, all of these things, the benefits calculator, the instant benefits calculator, so they don't have to call insurance to figure out whether they have these benefits. Like every aspect of our workflow is very loved and kind of fits in really well with the practice. And I think more and more, I know I mentioned group practices. Group practices are really starting to use us because we have a wealth of just features that, we can have one practice portal, but as many clinicians and admins as you want, right? For that same 3% fee, there's no additional fees or monthly fees, depending on how many extra team members you have or anything. So group practices are really showing a lot of love for Thrizer right now. So yeah, overall, it's been a really good experience, both for therapists and clients.
Yes. And so in speaking of the instant benefits calculator, is that the piece within the portal where you put in the client's insurance information and then it auto-populates, their
Exactly.
benefits info, which is, again, super duper nice because number one, you're not having to call insurance. And then number two, I'm not having to go on to all of these different insurance provider portals and getting lost because those are so hard to navigate because I can't even tell you, like, there's a different portal, different username, password for each insurance. And then you can't even find their eligibility and benefits, like their own calculator very easily. So for you guys, again, it's like you have really simplified and made it easy and less frustrating in so many ways.
Yeah, exactly. And that was totally our intention with that, right? Because it's so easy, kind of the process that you explained, to get lost 30 minutes into the process, right? And you still don't have an answer. And that's 30 very valuable minutes. You could be, resting in between sessions. You could be doing your notes. You could be seeing more clients, right? 30 minutes is very valuable. And so if you're able to spend 10 seconds just entering in the insurance information, date of birth, name, and you get that instantly, you've saved yourself 30 minutes. And so I think that's where, that's another thing that's really loved. It exists in the therapist portal or the clinician portal so that, you're able to provide that white glove service for your clients and, make it even easier for them. Or clients can also check their own benefits by creating an account. So it's kind of up to both of you, whatever works best. But those are kind of the two ways where that instant benefit verification lives within Thrizer.
Yeah. So does the client necessarily have to accept, or are they doing some type of agreement with Thrizer? Because what I would love to do is, like, after a consult, check their benefits in Thrizer, and I don't have to wait on them to accept an invitation or, like, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, that's where that instant benefits calculator is super helpful. So it's just in your portal. All you have to do is collect their insurance information either when you're on the call with them or they email you their insurance information. You can quickly check it. So they don't even need to be in the Thrizer system for you to check their benefits, and you can provide them with an answer before they even sign on with therapy with you.
Okay. Yes. And I imagine too that with Thrizer, it is HIPAA compliant, very safe and secure. Did you want to speak to that a little bit?
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for asking. So we are HIPAA compliant. We also are, our privacy and security in terms of the financial data is backed. We use Stripe as our infrastructure. So it's, very compliant, all within the whatever rules and legal confines of all of that. So we're absolutely HIPAA and privacy and security compliant. So no
Awesome.
issues there.
Yeah. All right. Well, do you have any words of encouragement or advice for anyone listening today?
Yeah, yeah. So for, clients who are listening, if you are considering to start therapy or you are seeing a therapist who's out of network and you don't know if you have out of network benefits, it's the easiest thing in the world to just create a quick account on Thrizer, it's thrizer.com. Just verify your benefits, right? Because you could be leaving a lot of money on the table when maybe you think the process is intimidating and overwhelming, right? And that's really our intention, to make it as easy and frictionless for you as possible. So if you don't know if you have out of network benefits, I would encourage everyone to know that about their insurance plan. And if you are a therapist who is, considering going out of network or already is out of network, and you want to check out our payment platform or the superbill uploads, it's a very simple process to get started. Again, the free trial can really help you explore things without really committing too much. You could try it out with 1 to 2 clients, see how the process goes for you. There's no minimums or contracts or any of that, right? So it truly is, just give it a try. If you end up loving it, you can bring on the rest of your caseload.
Yes, and that was exactly my experience. I got the
Mhm.
referral link, like I was saying, from a colleague on LinkedIn, and I tested it with one new client, then it was a second new client, and I'm like, okay, everybody, this is what we're going to be doing now. And it has been especially helpful for the Tricare beneficiaries. I mean, it's awesome that you guys help with the military service members and their families when they're trying to access mental health care, because like Tricare, you can't even become an in-network provider right now unless you
Yeah.
offer medicine. They are so full with providers. So the only
Yeah.
option for me was to be a Tricare certified provider, which is like out of network. And
Hmm.
having Thrizer has again bridged that gap to helping
Yeah.
more like military spouses and these army wives and marine wives and all these ladies that can now get the OCD treatment that they've been and specialized
Mhm.
treatment that they've been looking for. So I just appreciate you guys so much.
Yeah, thank you so much for sharing that. That definitely makes me feel really warm and fuzzy. Yeah, TRICARE has been something that we've integrated very well with. We have so many people using us for TRICARE. And so we're happy to be able to provide that service.
We're partnering with NoCD to raise awareness about OCD. OCD is more than what you see on TV and in the movies. Imagine having unwanted thoughts about your relationship stuck in your head all day, no matter how hard you try to make them go away. That's relationship OCD. It comes with unrelenting, intrusive images, thoughts, and urges about your partner or loved one. Breaking the OCD cycle takes effective treatment. Go to nocd.com to get evidence-based treatment. Are there any other closing thoughts or pieces of information you would like to share that we didn't cover?
I think we kind of covered everything. I just want to thank you again. I really appreciate this opportunity. I think it was a very transparent but organic conversation. Hopefully that, people understood and broke things down in a very simple way, hopefully. So
Yes.
I just really want to thank you for the opportunity so much.
Yes. Well, I really appreciate all the help and things that you guys do. It's truly been a game changer in my private practice and has eased so much. I'm not even kidding, like so much of the stress that comes with out of network billing, because I've been doing courtesy billing for, I mean, years, like ever since I had independent licensure. Even with that, that was tough, because I felt the same. Like if you're going to a therapist, I already know you're struggling to get out of bed sometimes. So
Yeah,
let me take this off your plate, but it would still somehow end up on my plate. And
right.
I couldn't, it just created almost like a miscommunication or this rift in the therapeutic
Mhm.
relationship that didn't need to be there.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And again, my goal is that everyone hears about Thrizer because there is
Hmm.
someone else who can take care of all of that, right? Like it
Yes.
doesn't have to be on your plate. It doesn't have to be on your client's plate. Maybe, automating it and, like I said, submitting claims in bulk just even gives you better effectiveness, like better, just success, right? And so just kind of offloading all of that to someone like Thrizer can just save both people just so much time and stress, right? And anxiety and all of that. So
Yeah.
yeah, thank you for doing that.
Yeah. All right. Well, thank you again for being here today. And I hope the listeners can walk away feeling very empowered and feel like they can take the next step in seeking out mental health care and not feel limited by, oh, are they in network with my insurance or are they not? Like, just go find the right fit, and Thrizer can help you in that process.
Exactly. Exactly.
Thank you for listening to another episode of Bossing Up, Overcoming OCD. This information is intended to be helpful and not a substitute for professional counseling. If you're struggling with any mental health challenges, I encourage you to seek help from a qualified therapist or healthcare professional. If you enjoyed today's episode, please take a moment to rate and review the show. Your feedback helps us reach more listeners, and don't forget to check out the affiliate links in the show notes for hand-picked recommendations that can brighten your day. Your support through these links helps keep the show running and provide valuable content. You're not alone in your journey. Stay strong, stay resilient, and keep bossing up. See you next time.